Welcome to Melt University. This series will help you build your brand, inform you on a variety of career paths, and introduce you to top executives in sports and marketing. Now, here's your host, the president and CEO of Melt, one of the largest independent sports and event marketing agencies in the country, Vince Thompson.
Welcome back, students. Virtual Melt University. We are rolling into spring and March Madness and spring break and spring football, and hopefully, green shoots are sprouting everywhere, and we'll all be back, in the classrooms and the offices in the fall, and hopefully full stadiums. We've had a lot of tremendous guests, and we appreciate the tremendous feedback and response that you're giving me and you're giving our guests. And today, in the spirit of being on the leading edge and the cutting edge of the careers and future careers in sports. We've talked a lot about it. A lot of our guests have uncovered so many new opportunities and have been accelerated opportunities through the pandemic. So our guest today is Dr. Darin White, a dear friend, department chair, executive director of the Samford University in Birmingham, great institution, been friends there for years and years, Center for Sports Analytics in the Brook School of Business. And Dr. White is a pioneer in this space. I've been following his career for years. I'm on his board, and also was a student athlete at Birmingham-Southern. So he's also very passionate about the plight of student athletes. We talked about the NIL, name, image, and likeness, and we'll get into that. But what Dr. White is doing at the center is he's really the leader, and we're going to talk about this, of the intersection of big data analytics and sports. And as that, not only of the performance of the players, fanalytics, legal wagering, fantasy, fan experience, getting fannies back into seats as well. I mean, Dr. White is at the intersection. So Dr. White, thank you and welcome to Virtual Melt University today.
Yeah, no, I'm thrilled to be here. Thanks so much. And thank you also, Vince, for being part of our program for almost a decade, being on our board.
I remember the first meeting.
Yeah, it's just like we've come a long ways in the last decade,
Yep. So before we dive into, you being you really the personification of the future and future opportunities and career opportunities, and you're placing students all over the country and all these great jobs. We always sort of like to throw it back to your original passion, and it appears, similar to me, that you've been able to combine your passions for sports into sports business and academia and career development, similar to how I've done it. So we always sort of like to, and we all forget that even soccer was not as popular even 20, 30, 40 years ago as it is now. So for you to be a soccer player and subsequently a soccer coach, you had to have had a passion for it for a very long time. But we always like to talk about our students really identifying and pursuing their passion.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I mean, you ought to find what you love to do and do it, because you're going to spend so much of your life, almost 100,000 hours of your life will be spent doing whatever it is you do. And so, you need to be passionate about it and you need to enjoy it. And so, so many times we make decisions in life that are based on other criteria that, things we do the thing we think our parents want us to do, or the thing that may look best for society or whatever. And man, I'm all about, let's figure out what you're passionate about and let's go for it. That is really for me. I mean, I played soccer back in the day when it wasn't very popular in the United States, and all that. And then went on, I actually coached collegiately for 10 years. And you're right, that's what happened. I was coaching college soccer, and I also was teaching business in the business school. And it seemed like these two completely different things. But through that whole process, I kind of discovered the business side of sports. And then had the opportunity about a decade ago to come to Samford and start our program in sports marketing and sports analytics. And it's just been cool. And it's and of course, as you know, sports is a passion industry too. So
that's a great way to put it. But our the thing that I love about sports is not only is it a passion industry, it's an emotional industry. It is an evergreen industry. I think that, you see the rights fees that the NFL, $100 billion. I see where the NBA is going to go from 24 to 75. You see the staggering numbers that are plowing in from the legal wagering side, and even the definition of fanalytics. You're not necessarily pulling, but I mean, I probably will pull for Auburn, my favorite team, but if I'm watching a game and I've got, some fun wagers in it with my son, or I've got, fantasy going on, I may be tuning in, and I may be watching it for an entirely different reason than I would have been. So, because I want to unpack really, where you see, because one thing we really, really love to do for our students is really say, hey, the campus is the ultimate professional laboratory. But then when we say the words athletic department and athletic director, what people don't understand now is that's a CEO of a 10, 20, 50, $100 million organization. There's so many opportunities within that. So, but what led, I mean, what led you to the vision? Because if you look back in hindsight, 10 years ago, the vision of what you had is so prophetic and profound as it relates to what's happening now in the business of sports.
Yeah, well, again, I so much of it, we have a great advisory board. Again, you're part of that, but we've got 25 executives on our board that we meet with regularly, and they really do help us stay relevant to the industry. And that's why we have the Center for Sports Analytics. Is the board, every year we kept having our meetings. The board kept saying, hey, you got to have more analytics. I'm telling you, that's the way the industry's going. And so we decided to launch it. And we're the only university in the United States that has a Center for Sports Analytics.
Right.
We launched that in 2017. We are one of very few business schools where you can actually go and do a curriculum path that leads to jobs in sports business analytics. We just placed a young man, for example, with the Carolina Panthers as his title is Business Intelligence Coordinator. And so that's an analytics role, taking business strategy and analytics and combining those together. And so and that was, by the way, a brand new position they had just created at the Panthers. And so it's a new area that's really growing all across sports, is how do we take this big data that teams have on the business side of the organization and drive better revenue, more revenue, make better business decisions. And so that is the way the world of sports is going. And honestly, not just sports, but all industries are going that way. And so,
define for a lot of our students who are at universities all over the country who may seek you out, define in your terms sports analytics, because there is a subsection with the analytics of the athlete,
right?
But then there's a subsection of the analytics of the fans, and I know that the professional franchises have been very aggressive, and I've spent years pushing other university athletic and ticket departments to be more aggressive in that space as well, because the season ticket holder of a college football fan. So if I'm at Auburn, I have an emotional investment in that. I may have a multi-generational investment in that. I may, that the School of Communications got me on my career in that. So define for our students that term. And then if they were to seek this opportunity out on their respective campus within the respective athletic department, help us understand how they would pursue that. And Michelle McKenna, who's the CIO of the NFL, who went to Auburn and we interviewed her recently, she said, I hadn't hired a kid out of sports marketing in years. They're statisticians, they're analysts, they're engineers, they're coders, and that really kind of struck me. I was like, wow. So so define that, and then define where the opportunities are, and then define where they are within the campus, and then kind of the skill sets that these kids should be pursuing if they want to pursue this.
Yeah, no. So analytics is really impacting the world of sports in three main ways. And so, it all started with Moneyball and Billy Beane, right? And so So that's definitely a
Wait,
path.
by the way, that's the second reference we've had to that in the last 2 dates.
Really.
If you hadn't read that book and seen that movie, you have to see it.
Yeah, it's a must watch read kind of thing, right? Yeah.
Right.
So, but that's where it really all started and that's player. We call that player and team performance. That's really working for the coach, helping the coach make better decisions in terms of the field and strategies and all that. And so we actually have that at Samford. We've got a track for students. And so we've got students right now interning with multiple sports teams around the Birmingham area, getting real experience in those areas. Everything from our pro soccer team in town to UAB volleyball to teams on our own campus. So that's a path, and that's player and team performance. That's kind of where it all started. The second path, and this is the one that I spend a lot of my time in, and that's sports business analytics. And really what that is, that's working in the front office of a sports organization, taking data and trying to figure out how do we drive more revenue using the sport property. And of course, there's 4 revenue streams, right? Media rights, licensing, sponsorship, and all that. So how do we leverage data for example, how do we leverage data to make sure that Chick-fil-A, who has a partnership with the Peach Bowl, how do we make sure that relationship is as positive as possible for all parties involved?
Because at the end of the day, there's two other axioms that you and I know to be true. The sponsor dollars really drives all the money in sports.
Yeah,
I mean, at the end of the day, like Coke's got to spend that money on that March Madness sponsorship, but and it's defined as they're trying to reach a certain target, but now the target has been shattered into, the globe has been exploded. Like there's thousands of ways consumers get their information now, but the brands don't necessarily need it for awareness. At the end of the day, they want to drive people into Chick-fil-A to sell sandwiches.
That's right.
So the measurement standards now are not only trying to get fannies in the seats, but they've got to go back to sponsors who are more sophisticated and say, did we sell more chicken sandwiches because we sponsored the Atlanta Falcons?
Exactly. You got it. And that's what it's all about, because at the end of the day, that's why Coke, that's why Chick-fil-A, that's why they're spending the hundreds of millions of dollars in sports, is to drive more revenue for their businesses. And so how do we create partnerships that are effective at making that happen? And that's where analytics can come in and really help us with that. Because honestly, before big data came around the last 5 or 10 years, we were really just kind of guessing. We were like, well, maybe this will work. Let's try this. But we really didn't know for sure. But now we actually have the ability to measure that and determine if we're achieving our marketing objectives for our partners.
So tell me the process, because I'm fascinated with the process. So Dr. White, Vince Thompson, we're a fan of Alabama, Auburn, Falcons. So what is the soup to nut process of the gathering, and then the interpretation and the analysis, and then how you like if you're taking it back to the Falcons as it relates to the analysis of their fans, or are you, and then you take it back to the Falcons as it relates to the analysis of their sponsorship? So how does the process start?
Well, so for example, one of the neat things that our students get to do in our program is we have them every semester working on like real world projects like this. And so right now we're working with the Saints and the Pelicans, and we're collecting data, using big data, and helping them better understand who exactly their fans are, both watching on TV, in the stands, on social, and then as we get better and better information.
So how do you gather that though? So how did you do? What's the process?
Yeah, so some of it is traditional marketing research. You use traditional marketing research, but then there's also the ability to collect data through apps. So for example, if a fan logs on to the Saints app, there's all sorts of data we're able to collect on that.
Right.
If the sponsor has an app, for example, Chick-fil-A has the One app.
Right.
And let's say they give away a free sandwich if Alabama scores a touchdown in the red zone. Well, we now have a ton of data on that and see who actually. Right. So there's all kind of data that way, and then there's data from social, and we actually use a lot of social data. In fact, I just ran an analysis this morning. We're working on a potential project for Liverpool Football Club. And so we actually ran an analysis of Liverpool's 16 million followers on social, but we have a tool where we can go out and grab all of that data of those 16 million people and learn all sorts of interesting things that are going to be extremely helpful to their partners. To stay, like, for example, with Liverpool, Standard Charter, that's on the on their jersey. So we can collect data through social that could be really helpful to Standard Charter and help us understand, who the fans are and all that.
So then you figure out who Vince Thompson is. And so then you take that data back to Liverpool or back to the Falcons, and then it can't sit on a shelf. So then what is that expected action coming out of that?
Yeah. So now that we have a better idea of who you are and what drives you and all the different things that make you tick and that you love and that you're passionate about, now we can figure out strategies to create better activations, better partnerships between the brand and the sport property. So now we can go to Coca-Cola and say, hey, if you're really wanting to attract, this particular group of people to become Coke drinkers using your sport assets, here's the secret sauce to make that happen. And so we can come up with much better data-driven strategies, in other words.
So it doesn't necessarily, I don't even necessarily have to go to the game. I might be a Falcons fan on television.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And then the Falcons might be trying, or Fanatics might be trying to sell me a jersey or a cap. And has your job become more complicated as more data points or data collection points, and as people have cut the cords on cable television? Are you seeing, obviously it's going to create tremendous career and professional opportunities, but are you seeing it being more complicated? Because, that's the big thing that's got a head scratcher for all of my clients now, is like, where are they consuming
right.
their sports and information?
Yeah. And it's all over, but again, from a data perspective, we would prefer you to consume your sport content in some sort of a digital environment. We get better data that way. If you're watching it on the old-fashioned cable TV, it's, again, you might remember back in the day when the Nielsen would send out the little diaries or whatever. We don't have to do that if you're watching it on digital. If you're watching on a digital channel of some sort of YouTube TV, a Netflix, a Facebook, whatever, we now have the ability to collect much richer data on that. And so we actually, as sports marketing, a sports business, analytics, we would prefer you to watch it on digital. So.
Right. Because that it's more micro and more specialized. So if a student is seeking this type of experience, so like when I was at Auburn, I worked my way through sports information. But if a student is seeking this type of opportunity at the campus or university that they're on, two things: what type of courses should they be taking to prepare themselves for this, and then and how and where should they frame up their ask? Would that be more concentrated in the ticket department within a university athletic department, or where would that be?
Yeah, well, most, how the world of sports works. Pro sports are typically 5 to 10 years ahead of college sports when it comes to the business side. So honestly, most college athletic departments are still really naive when it comes to analytics. They're really just starting to think about that. A lot of the pro teams are a good bit ahead on that side of it, but that doesn't mean a student couldn't go to the ticket office, and even if they have never done anything, they've got the data, in the ticketing office. And so if you're going to have to be there's not probably someone in that ticketing office that's going to have an analytics background that's going to be able to teach you. Right. You're going to have to be able to take that. But
the ticket office would be a good place to sort of begin grounding in that career.
Yeah.
Then if you pursue in a postgraduate, through you or through other courses, but that probably, so the ticket office, and this is interesting because we haven't uncovered this until today, but the ticket office is a rich and ripe area for a lot of students to start their data analytics career.
Yes. In fact, case in point, we had and I can't say the name of the team, but we had an MLS team come to us recently, and they had a huge data file of all of their single game ticket purchases over the last several years. We're talking a massive file. And they were, they came to us and said, we know there's value in this, but we don't have any idea how to get it.
Right.
And they literally just sort of gave it to us. And I took 2 of my seniors, and we spent about 4 months doing, basically just doing data mining, which is mining the data for insights. And we didn't even know what we were going to find. And we just went in and spent hours and hours mining that data. And by the time we were done, we had some really valuable.
That's like a treasure chest dropped on you, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We those of us who are in this area, we just love data. We get lost in data.
Revenge of the geeks in sports, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They're finally so you really believe though that this is really just the tip of the iceberg in this industry, do you not?
Absolutely. I mean, it's just we are living in a time where it's almost like the Industrial Revolution. You think back your history, the Industrial Revolution sort of changed everything. Well, I think we're living in a time like that right now. That the data explosion that we're living in right now, I think we're going to look back 50 years, 100 years from now and go, wow, that was a really dramatic change in terms of, again, not just sports business, but I think all of business is that way.
And don't you think that it's as fantasy continues to grow, as legal wagering continues to grow, as student athletes are able to benefit from their name, image, and likeness, and leveraging their platforms, there are going to be multiple applications in those areas as well, right? I mean, it really never ends. I mean, we're all walking data points.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it's and they say that if you were to take all the data that has ever been collected since the world began, and you were to put it all in one big warehouse, that 90% of what you find in that warehouse would have been collected in the last 24 months.
Really?
Yeah. So, I mean, that gives you the sense of, and it's not slowing down. It's actually speeding up. So, I mean, the amount of data because of social, because of these phones that we're carrying, this thing is collecting all kind of data on me all the time, right? And the watches that we wear. I mean, every transaction we make online, everything we watch on, it's data, and more data. And we're finding ways to use that data now, again, to do a better job of serving our customers in a broad sense. And in the sports sense, it's our fans. And
so I mean, this is I think you're going to get a ton of response. It's been hugely enlightening. And so tell us about the program. How many students are in the program now?
Yeah, so we have 20 per class. And so if you're a high school student and you're interested, you can apply during your senior year and have a guaranteed spot waiting for you. If you don't get one of those, you can still come to campus and apply after your sophomore year to try to get into the program. But it's in the undergrad environment now. It is, although we just launched, I'm glad you asked that. We just launched about 2 months ago a sports business MBA program that also has an analytics component too as well. So
wow,
we have, and that's fully online too. So you could, no matter.
Is that within the School of Business?
Yes, in our business school. Yep, that's right. So it's brand new.
That's brand new. Wow. Yep. I didn't realize that. That's amazing.
Yeah, we've got a board meeting next week. I'm going to tell you all about it. Okay.
Yeah. No, I want to know about it because the program is cutting edge, and I'm just fascinated, with the program, and there's really nothing else like it in the country, right?
Yeah, the only other business school that I know of anyway is Syracuse University. They have a really good sports analytits program as well. But
it's too cold up there. We can't get up there.
Exactly. Who wants to go up to upstate New York, right?
So from the perch you sit on, where do you see this in the next 10 years, 5-10 years? Where do you see it going if you're crystal balling, and how that relates? I think this is a massive career space.
It is
for students.
It is. It absolutely is. And I actually didn't answer one of your questions. If I were a student and I were not at our school, the things I would be doing is, number one, you need to be in the business school, because if you've got to understand accounting and finance, and you just do, because sports business is business, and you got to understand basic business principles if you're going to work in this space. Secondly, you've got to do analytics. You need to do a minor in data analytics, take as many stats classes as you possibly can. And then third, you need to get specific sports industry experience while you're in school. There's a small window of time where you can get those internships. Once you graduate, it's almost
over.
Over. Yeah. Right. So you got to put those sports things on your resume while you're in school. If you do those three things, you'll have a shot. If you don't, you don't have a shot.
Right. Well, that's why we tell our students, and I mean, obviously we've had some curveballs and wrinkles with COVID, but these 4 years, you better max it out from intern, on campus experience, padding your resume, because Dr. White, is fascinating. I get so many resumes that says, well, I love sports and I want to work in sports marketing. And I'm like, okay, so what? Right? Like we all love sports, but tell me why because the students that are gaining the jobs now, because my other theory is that I used to say in a fishing analogy, it take 100 casts to get 8 job bites to get 2 qualified leads. I think now it's going to be 500 based on so many people are unemployed in our industry that are willing to take something lesser salary and position to get back in the game.
Yeah.
And so, people like me, I went from, 100 employees to 10, and I'm going to be very judicious in hiring when I come back.
Yeah.
So I think that the better that our students really truly understand that this intersection of analytics, fanalytics, data analysis, where it is just the richness of the opportunity.
Yeah.
I do believe I'm bullish for this generation coming out of COVID, that it's going to be the golden age and a renaissance. And then they are the most sophisticated fans and consumers there are because of their digital natives and all of that. And but to your point, I think you just hit the nail on the head. Don't waste that window. And I got a lot of regrets in life, but one of them is I didn't waste my window at Auburn. And it really doesn't, but it really doesn't matter as long as you're doing something, gaining that experience, showing that employer that you have a potential employer, you're showing that initiative and all that stuff. But this has been, I'm trying to see if I missed anything, but I really had been excited about you exposing our students to this, because we've had a lot of ahas, in this. We interviewed Alan Green, the AD at Auburn, and he's like, hey, there's opportunities in mental health, there's opportunities in AI and performance and nutrition, and the ticket office, as rudimentary as it sounds, is still a good starting point for many kids, and I think we'll see a lot of ahas today. But so you never disappoint me, Dr. White. Amazing things that you're doing, for our profession, for our industry, with some of my great clients, the Coca-Cola Company and Chick-fil-A. So this has been amazing. Dr. Darin White, Department Chair, Executive Director of Professional Marketing, Director of Samford University and Birmingham Center for Sports Analytics in the Brook School of Business. This has been a tremendous opportunity. We look forward to more and learning more of the successes and opportunities that you're creating, and I am myself. So we appreciate your time on the virtual Melt University.
Yeah, it's been fun. And if anybody is interested, a couple things, if you want to follow me on Twitter, we keep this conversation going 24/7. So my Twitter handle is sports_biz, BIZ_prof, like professor, sports_biz_prof. Right, exactly. And then the last thing, we do have internships in the Center for Sports Analytics for students that are not at Samford. So we'll have students this summer from everywhere from Bucknell to, we get kids from all over the country that apply. We've got a young man from the University of Michigan going to be with us, and those can be done virtually. So check out our website. We've got we do internships. Summer,
what's the website address?
So it's samford.edu/sports analytics, and you can find us there. You just Google Samford Center for Sports Analytics, you'll find it there. And we've got a blog, so we get a lot of great blog content. Our students will write for our blog, so just check us out. We got some good stuff out there.
Well, I love that, and I hope one day we get to reconnect live, because the campus is absolutely beautiful. I've got friends who have kids there. John Mount's daughter's there. I've got a friend whose son is going to law school. Many good friends within the athletic department, and I lived there 15 years, and it abuts that beautiful Southern Living property. So one of the prettiest places in the world on Lakeshore Drive. So I'm sure that you're going to be hearing from a lot of our students, and like I said, that's what our mission is, to enlighten them and create networking and relationship building opportunities. But if you guys aren't following Dr. Darin White and following the Samford, what he's doing in sports analytics, you need to buckle up and get it on it right now. So Doc, good catching up, and we'll check in next week at the meeting.
All right, thanks so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Vince. We hope you've enjoyed today's virtual class. We'll be back soon with a new edition of Melt University 2021.